Hello, 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 hello. It's Kamilah Rose with the Bliss Institute. And I've got a review of Infinity Train today, the first two episodes. I am super excited. I watched the pilot episode of this, might have been last summer, maybe. And I thought it was interesting. I was really looking forward to some of the new shows that Cartoon Network was in the works and in the talks of starting series for. So there was Infinity Train, and then I talked a little bit in one of my previous videos about the Forever 12, which I thought was kind of funky. Like I think it's for I think it's for a younger audience. So it's good from that perspective. But so let's get going. So we first get there, we see I like the fact that there is a lot of emphasis on the scenery, on what it looks like in the space. Hold on a second. What it looks like in the space. So you see a train, you see the train. Oh, there's a train. I didn't even really pick up on that. But it's a bus. It's a bus stop. And then you see them getting off the bus, and it is the main character, Tulip, and her friend Michaela. They're coming home from school. You see where they live, and it's kind of sparse. It looks kind of more like a rural space. So there's not a lot of houses. There's, some streets and with houses there, lots of space, as I was saying. At first, I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I don't really know what's going on here because I'm from Texas and grew up in the suburbs, very used to a more suburban space. So lots of like those master plan communities with a whole bunch of houses, and then like there's people everywhere and all of that. Not so much used to the rural space. So her and Michaela are talking. Tulip and Michaela are talking about how Michaela or Tulip is going off to a game, like workshop. It's a game like camp thing over the weekend, and she's going to go because she's a coder. So she's coding for her first video game. She cannot wait. She wants to go home and practice. She wants to make her game even better. And then she eats onions. So I don't know if that's going to come into play anywhere, but she eats onions. And so then they get to Tulip's house, and Michaela starts asking questions about, oh, is it weird when your dad comes to pick you up? Since your parents are divorced now. So I'm like, girl, you're making it awkward where like it wasn't weird before, but it's weird now. So you can see Tulip becoming like visibly uncomfortable with the conversation and with the topic of the conversation. And she's very defensive. She's like, no, it's not weird. Lots of parents are divorced. Lots of families have divorced parents. It's whatever. And so she's ready to go in. Tulip's kind of like over it. Now she's in a bad mood. And Michaela's like, oh, okay, I'll see you later. Send me a text from camp. So Tulip goes inside, and the mom is on the phone, and she's like, I need to talk to you. Tulip's not trying to hear it because she's already not in the best mood because of these questions. So she goes upstairs. And as it turns out, Tulip, mother and father, are unable to take her to this camp because they have some scheduling issues. So the dad booked a work trip away that weekend, and the mom had already scheduled to pick up hours at her job because Tulip wasn't supposed to be there. And now there's no one available to take Tulip to this camp that she really, really wanted to go to. So much so, we find that, Tulip is not maybe the best at English. They signed a contract that if Tulip brought up her English grade, she would be able to go to this camp, and now they're breaking their promise. It's not fair. We go into that whole like narrative about disappointment and about not having someone kind of supporting you and what goes on when parents get divorced. And so she's not having any of it. So Tulip goes upstairs. Now, this camp for her to go and do this coding is 300 miles away, and it's starting to snow. They're up in Wisconsin because the camp is in Oshkosh. And Tulip is like, I'm going to go anyway. She starts pulling on her little snow boots. She puts on her little jacket, and Tulip is climbing out the window so she can go walk her happy self on to her camp that she wants to go to. And I'm sitting here like, okay, well, this is an interesting direction to go in because it's snowing and this is 300 miles away. But you know, if you're taking that look of this is someone who is young and who is unaware kind of consequences of their actions and how to deal with their emotions and all of that stuff, then like I'm going to go ahead and do it because I don't need them. I can do it on my own. I worked hard and I deserve this. Kind of makes more sense. Now, one other thing that happened is that Tulip has her game and she has two little players, and it's kind of like a like one of those very simple like shooting games where you have like the good part and then you have the one that's going to shoot it down, and so it's not working, so she has to find a way to fix it, which she does. And so I was like, well, I think that's really good because I think it'll come into play later. Obviously, ignore the cat. It'll come into play later as she is going to have to problem solve and be used to finding ways to kind of work around issues when things aren't working the way that she would like for them to. So what we find is that this first episode is called The Grid Car. And so she's out walking, right? And it's snowing and she's walking. And then it's like nighttime, it's cold. She's like sitting down and she's just like, oh, like 300 miles wasn't that far and all this stuff. And I'm like, is she going to die? Is this going to be like a tragedy where it's like you should listen to your parents and not be trying to run out here and go and do camp on your own? And so she comes across, the music. So the music starts when she heads out. And the music gives me such, look at this cat. The music gives me such, come here, kitty. Come here, baby. Gives me such Blade Runner vibes. It's got the sync. It's got the synth. That's what it's called. The synth is very like 80s techno, electronic, and I love it. Like it goes with the whole vibe, with the kind of the mystery that goes with it. That's based in this very mechanical computer systemized way, especially with the emphasis on the computer games and then on the ability to be able to problem solve through a computer system. And so I really felt like that gave it like a nice edge and a throwback and something that you're like, okay, I want to know what's going to happen with this. So now we have it where it's like, okay, well, she's talking about how she needs a way to get there. She needs to get to Oshkosh. And she's like, okay, as she's wandering around and she's thinking like, oh, I fell asleep. And now like I've missed camp because I've fallen asleep. But I was also like, girl, you have to walk 300 miles in like a day. Like I like to watch some of the hikers on YouTube and they're like doing 20 miles a day. And I'm like, sweetheart, that was a lot going on for someone who's pretty good at math. So she's walking, and now she walks upon like some snowmen. But on the snowman, one of them starts talking. The head starts talking. It's a little white ball, and actually it's two pieces, and it's got two little eyes, and it's like, I'm looking for my mother. And she's like, you can talk, you're a weird toy. And then they walk up to a larger snowman, and it's one, and is saying, there's no way to get in this. We've tried, the only way to get in is through hypothermia. And I was like, okay, is this another hint that like this chick has frozen to death because she's out here trying to walk in the snow? And I don't know how healthy that is or how much she's going to be able to make it, because if it's snowing, then it's cold and it's wet. And I don't know if she brought any food because she just hopped up inside that bag and was like, so long, suckers. So, but she can open it, of course, because she has thumbs, she has hands, so she can, because like I said, it's a ball. It's just like a mechanical ball. And so she opens up the doors and they go inside, and now they're in the grid room, and she's seeing that like, oh, it's like a game. It's like a video game, very similar to the one that she had made. And so she's very excited to like play with the game and then kind of see what's going on. And she realizes that she's on the train that she saw that night. She's on that train. And that there's different rooms, and that each of these rooms has like different kind of feels to it. So the snow room was a car, and now there's the grid room. That's a different car. And at some point she decides, she's like, I don't want to be on this train anymore. I'm ready to get off. So she tries to run away. she runs off the train, like she jumps off it, but there's this desolate kind of barren desert, or maybe like kind of wasteland looking. It gives me again Blade Runner vibes, like when they're out there outside of the city and more in the unoccupied or lesser occupied spaces. So she's running. She's like, I don't want to be on this train anymore. She ends up getting stuck in the mud a little bit away from the train. And then there are these creatures. They look like they're kind of like roaches. But they also look like they're kind of like alien-esque, kind of mutated dogs. They have wings. They have the little like roach antenna things. Gross, kind of like, I'm thinking like shrimp and crawdaddies, things like that. And so they start chasing after her. They're ready to like devour her. So she's like, oh, I got to get back on the train. So then they're in the grid room. They end up knocking out the animal. They run, and she has one build a little like room, a little house kind of space, and it gets stuck. And then she's like, okay, here we go. Like I have to problem solve, and I have to work my way out of this. And just like I had to do so with my game, I have to do so with this. So then it's like she realizes that it was before that she realized she has the numbers on her hand, and it says 1 to 15. The numbers fluctuate throughout the episodes. And so I'm still not sure kind of what the numbers indicate. I did see someone mention that they think the numbers are tied to when she's selfish and when she's not selfish. But I'm not sure if that's really what it's going to be. I think it might be something else. But we'll get into that in a little bit. So then we have the second episode. And on the second episode, which is the beach car, they're in a puzzle room. They started in a puzzle room, crosswords, and she asked one, like, how long have you been here? And how long have you been working on this? And they're like, oh, we've been here from the start, which I'm wondering, does that mean they've been there since the beginning of the train? I also wonder if there's a connection that they have to the conductor, which we'll get to in a little bit. If they have a connection to the conductor that Tulips wants to find so that Tulip can get off the train, because they're like, well, the conductor will know what to do. And I'm wondering, since it seems like that 1-to-1 doesn't have its memory, it doesn't seem like there's a malfunction or something, that he or it knows more of what's going on, but because there's that malfunction, they are unable to kind of articulate and tell Tulip more of what's happening. They're just kind of in this loss, like looking for their mother. But I think there's also something to that about the disconnect that Tulip's feeling towards her family right now and towards herself, and because she wants to because of the divorce and the emotional toll that it's taking on her. So anyways, they're still inside of the crosswords room, the puzzle room. There's a spell room. There's a pinball room. So you see that like there's so many different rooms, and they have all these different topics and activities and things going on. And so we see that she makes a comment about how you can't, like, you have to get the work done first and then you can have fun. When she was working with her dad, that was what they did. They would do the work part and then they would have fun. But then she's like, well, actually, we used to fit some fun in with the work. So it doesn't have to be like all work and no play. Like there can be an exchange. There can be a balance between the two of them. And balance is one of the themes. Oh, you're watching episode 2 now? Yeah, this is the one I'm talking about right now. So if you don't want to know what's happening in episode 2, like don't watch, because I'm going over episode 2 and kind of like my thoughts about it and how it might tie together with other things. But she's talking about how I think balance is one of the things for this episode, because we find out later that we'll get into what happens later that ties back to the whole like balance and compromise and needing to understand like balancing out your wants versus having people who care for you, and how do you balance all of those things. So her number is 114 on her hand at the time, but the numbers fluctuate, like I said. So 1-to-1 is like, oh, when you reach 0, that's it. You're gone forever, which I thought was interesting that she's like, oh, that means I die. But I'm like, but that's not what he said. He just said you're gone forever. So I do wonder, what does that mean? Like, is it something different as opposed to dying? Maybe that means you get off the train, or maybe it means you get shifted somewhere else. Because there was the one person who got sucked up out of the train. and like pulled up into the sky. So I'm like, well, maybe that was someone whose numbers ran out and they are now like gone. They're gone forever, like 101 said. But she's like, oh my gosh, that means I'm gonna die. And so Tulip wants to know the rules. She's very like into the rules. She was like, if I just knew what the rules, which to me speaks to, she wants to know what the expectations are, like what is expected of her, how does she play the game, and what are her responsibilities? Like, what is she supposed to be doing while she's there? Is she supposed to be going through each car, figuring out what's happening, or is she just supposed to try to get off the train? She just wants to know what's expected of her. And I felt like that was kind of going back to the contract that she had with her parents, because she had an expectation for them that when they came to this agreement that if she improved her grades, she would get to go to this camp, that that was going to be what was going to end up happening, but it didn't. The things changed. And so like her need to know the rules and to understand them and then to rigidly follow them, and how needing that flexibility is important, is also something I feel is going to come up in this story as she works through these cars and tries to get off this train. So there is, I call her Clever, and she's a trickster. So I feel like she plays a trickster role, is the kitty. They come across her. She's running a pyramid scheme, and she is doing the best of the best, the best of the Mary Kays, the best of the Lulu roll, those awful yoga pants. She's doing all of it. She's really playing this game with this. It's like a water creature thing, like a water being, and its name is Randall. And she's just like, look, I have this, and then we'll be at the top, and you sell this, and then it'll be us making money. And she's like, it's a donut maker, and it's like a, what do you call those things? It's a it's like an iron something. I'm trying to think. You can use it to take off the tire, the wrench. And so she's just popping it into things. She's like, now it's a donut. She's just popping holes in the stuff like it's a donut. It's like, yeah, that's not what that is. But when you're a con artist, when you're a scammer, then that's what you do. Joanne the scammer, she's out here playing everybody, trying to get what she wants without any regard to integrity or morals or wanting to make connections with others or tricking people. Like, none of that's going on there. She's just out for what she wants. I do not watch My Hero. I tried to get into it. I have friends who watch it. They love it. And I'm just like, I think it's going to be one of those shows that I end up wanting to watch like way past when everybody else has watched it. Sadly, that happens to me quite a bit. So, but I have friends and they love it. And so I'm like, okay, whatever works for y'all. So Tulip is wanting to find a conductor, and the cat is like, oh, well, if you come and help me, I'll help you get to the conductor, and the conductor will make it so that you can get out of here. This is just a misunderstanding. And so Tulip realizes that she'll realize that she can't make assumptions without knowing all the information. And so she's like, oh, well, what do you need? And so the cat's like, I have this machine, this shuttlecraft, and it doesn't work. And she's like, oh, here's 101. So she's showing her 101, the little ball. And the cat thinks it's really interesting that 101 doesn't know who his mother is. She's like, she thinks, I've seen where people were like, oh, well, she recognized 101. And she was looking at it really funny, like, what are you doing here? What's happening? And then she found it was really interesting. She says that 101 doesn't know who its mother is. Like, how do you not know, like, what's going on here? Which then makes me think maybe they are in, like, Tulip's head, and maybe she's, like, the creator, and that's why she's like, it's weird that you don't know who your mother is, because it's Tulip, because she created all of this in her head or her imagination or something like that. So I was looking at the whole one-to-one thing, and so like in the mathematical, like and all the ways that one and one come together to equal one, to equal a whole, one divided by one times one over one, like all of these things, and like duality. positive, negative, and balance. So we're going again back to the theme I spoke about in here about balance, and about how one-to-one is balanced out, because you have one side of one that is very just like fun and fun-loving and positive, and then you have the other one that's a bit morbid. It always seems like they're going through existential crisis, and it's like, okay, they are balancing each other out. And I think that it's speaking to the theme and the need for Tulip to find the way to balance herself out, and to understand that even when things don't go her way, such as with not being able to go to camp, that she doesn't have to lash out. She doesn't have to just jump up and run away and be like, well, I'll just take care of this on my own. Like, she can sit down and talk it out with the people who care about her, and she can come to a compromise. She can come to a way to still get her needs met without having to possibly isolate, or to hurt herself, or to hurt others because of how she's treating them, or what happens afterwards. So going to that whole like balance and being whole. So the cat says she can lead Tulip to the conductor, and then she tricks Tulip basically into fixing her shuttlecraft in order to speed the conductor. Because I was like, this is some funky math here, because she's like, okay, because I'll go and I'll speak the conductor, but you have to fix my shuttlecraft. I said, that's an even exchange. So like the one-to-one thing again. That's an even exchange. But then the trickster cat is like, but you need to pay me, because in the time I'll miss going to get the conductor, I'll have missed sales, and I'll have missed making money or making whatever. So you need to pay me or exchange something for me to actually go and do this for you. And I said, that's not even, that's a scam right there. But it's again like the knowledge and the understanding of like what's an actual even exchange. What do people who have integrity, like, how do they behave? And I'm like, girl, come on now. So then she's like, okay, well, what do you want? And she was like, oh, well, I want, one-on-one. And she's like, oh, but they're not like, you like, what? Like, I don't know. And she's just like, do you want to get off this train or not? And she's like, I do. So she's like, okay. So then Tulip is trying to fix the shuttlecraft. She realizes he's missing a part. And then Randall, the water being, comes back, and he's like, oh, I know where you can get that part. So he has this ability to like open up the ocean, because he's a water being, and he's like from the ocean, and there's like a sand world there with all the other little water beings, and there's a kind of mechanical shop. And they go in there, and it's a gear shop, and the gear shop owner is like, hey, you want this gear, then I'm going to need something from you. And so one-to-one had given Tulip Daisy, because they had a discussion about how they were asking her, one-to-one was asking her about her name, and she was like, well, I had complications when I was born, so I have trouble breathing. Oh, maybe that's what's wrong with her. Maybe she's got like weak lungs. I didn't even make that connection. So maybe she just passed out because she had these complications with breathing. And if she's exerted herself and it's cold and she hasn't been eating, maybe she's just having like passed out from the complications. Anyway, so I wrote that down. So she is like, but I came back, and so my parents named me after a tulip, because I'm like a perennial that, that pops up perennially. So like not necessarily every year annually, but like every other year. So like they just need a little bit of time to get their strength back up, and then they're back. So that's kind of how she was. Let me get the baby real quick, because he's making all the noises. So they gave her Daisy, and they were like, that's not a perennial. And the snarky cat is like, so you're going to end out of any perennial? And I was like, you know what? You got some problems, lady, for someone who needs a bunch of help. So the guy at the gear shop wants the Daisy, and she's like, oh, but it was given to me for a gift. It's not really, something I want to give away. And he was like, I don't care. Once I see what I want it. And so she was like, oh, okay, well, then I'll give it up. And even though, one-to-one is like, oh, you're just going to give away like our gift that we gave you. We care about you, and that's why we gave it to you. But she agrees to the exchange, and they find that, that she's like, well, it's not for sale. And it's like, you really can't sell, friendship. You can't sell companionship, family, loyalty. And the water being, so she's giving it up. And then the cat lady is like, all right, you fixed my shuttlecraft, so now it's time for me to leave and I'll go talk to the conductor. And I'm like, you've got no guarantee she's going to even do that. You're just guessing that she's going to go and talk to the conductor. But, go ahead. All right. So now she's got no Daisy from her friend, one-to-one. She's all by herself and she's got no one-to-one. So she's just given up like all the things that she's cared about with no guarantee that like they will follow through in the long run. And she's sitting on the beach thinking about how like she has basically been played, and it was based all off of selfishness, where she was just focused on like she wanted to get off the train and she didn't care about who she had to hurt in order to do that, who she had to let go of and give up on in order to do that. So she ends up losing in the end because no guarantee this cat's even going to go to the conductor, and who knows what this cat's going to do to one-to-one because she doesn't know anything about it. And this comes and plays out in a fun conversation between her and Randall. And so Randall's trying to sell her his dodo maker, and Randall can kind of split into multiple beings. And so he was supposed to build a team, but he doesn't have to go out per se and build a team. He has a built-in team within himself. So it's kind of one of those speaking to, when you're looking for something outside of yourself, like it's already within you and you have all the things that you need already. So like you're already successful and you're already winning. And so the water being Randall is like, well, now that I've seen it, it's I can help you. And it shows the importance of like being on a team and having a team. Hello, Diego. Because Randall makes his own team. Like, and he's like, you need this because these people, he's like, maybe you're not the best at sales to one of them, but you care about me and that makes you important. And so now, now Tulip's having this, oh my gosh, because the people who cared about me one-to-one, I just like sold them off so that I could hopefully get off this train and this cat will go and talk to the conductor, which of course that cat's not going to talk to any conductor. That cat was, just playing her. And so Tulip really sees like sometimes you have to do what's best for the team, not just yourself, in order to kind of get what you need. And that it takes compromise, it takes conversation, it takes being open to new things, as opposed to just being like, well, this is what I want and this is what I need, so I'm going to do it, and who cares what happens to anybody else. Like, or particularly with her family, like they don't want her to be out there in the snow wandering around trying to get to this, programming camp. Like, she could get hurt, something really bad could happen to her. So, really being able to have those conversations and have that understanding and realization. And like how her parents are trying to be a team, even though they're divorced, they're still trying to work together because they care about Tulip and they want good things to come for Tulip. So like there's a lot of connections happening here. And also the importance of asking the hard questions, because Tulip didn't ask that cat any questions. Tulip was just like, well, okay, I guess, yeah, I got to get out of here. So here you go. And that people who care about you are more important than the promises that someone might make and not be able to fulfill, but they're willing to still hold space with you and have these conversations with you. So again, now her numbers were 109. So like I said, the numbers fluctuate on her hand. So now Tulip's like, okay, I gotta go back. I gotta go get one-to-one. So she runs back. She goes to the gear shop. She's like, exchanges the Daisy for a pack of gum. The gear shop guy was happy with the pack of gum. So I was like, oh, so now again, an example of seeing that you don't have to give up the things that are so precious to you. You can talk to people and have a compromise. And she's riding with Randall because Randall's like, yeah, I can get you to her. Tulip is very smart. And I love that about this show, is that Tulip is very quick, because she is just like, her brain works in a way that makes these connections and sees these things, but it's in a logical format. So that more feeling side is something that it seems like she's working to develop. So they're chasing after the cat. The cat has run away. The cat's like, you can't have the one-to-one back. One-to-one is all excited. They're like, we knew you would come back. But she has to kind of fight and get to the cat to get one-to-one from them. And so she's trying to do all these things. The cat is wily. The cat is jumping across. It's moving around. It's doing all these things to evade getting taken on by Tulip and Randall. And so then finally Randall jumps on top of the cat. So it's kind of in this water world with it. And Tulip is like, can you sneak into the cracks? Because she's seen Randall split itself up. And Randall was like, for sure, I can get in anywhere. So now there's water dripping into her machine, her little shuttle, and it's haywire and it's just going to the fritz. And so now, like, it's the shuttle crashes, the cat's all washed up. Wonder One is all excited because they're like, well, we knew you would come back. And Wonder One says, I knew you would bounce back like when your parents hatched you. So again, going back to the whole ability for Tulip to be able to, you know, even if they're having a hard time, to realize that like they can make it and that they can do this and what's important in the end. And I thought that was a really nice message, especially since, you know, I think people go through a lot of hard times and they don't know what to do about it. And that if you feel like you're just going to be in this dark space forever, remembering that you've been through hard times before and you made it through that, and now you're in a hard time now and you'll make it through this one as well. I think it's a really nice message to have in the story. I also think it's a really nice message to talk about the need to have a balance, the importance of having a team, the importance of friendship and unity and working together to be able to solve problems and to trust each other, to build that trust, and to also be like mindful of people that you don't know and be brave enough to ask the hard questions so that you don't get taken advantage of, because maybe the people who care about you aren't able to give you exactly what you want. Her parents weren't able to take her to this camp, but like they weren't going to leave her. They didn't abandon her. They weren't going to just be like, oh well, like hope you make it. Her mom wanted to talk to her. Her dad wanted to talk to her. They wanted to do what they could to make this work for her and to not let her down. And I think now Tulip's been given the opportunity to start to learn some of these lessons herself and see how they play out and understand how difficult it is to actually make these decisions when it comes to other people, especially when there's the stuff you want. Because like her parents weren't going on parties or dates, like they were going to work. And although it seems like, oh, well, there's other things that are important for work, but like if they're divorced, then they have to pay these bills and they have two separate households and they still have to take care of Tulip. And so they're going to need to do things that are going to bring in money. Like the mom was wanting to work extra shifts because she's going to have to take care of this household on her own now. She's not able to just, it's not her and the husband anymore. So I really like that, the way that they illustrated the importance of trying to work together and of compromising and these themes. I think the balance is going to be really important. I think the realizing that things are not as easy or ever fair and that it takes time to figure things out. You have to be brave and willing to do things that make you uncomfortable or do not leave you getting what you want in the end. And then I think also, like, I really am curious if this whole, like, the name Tulip and how, and tulips come up in the snow. Huh. So that's another thing, like, draws into what was going on with her, because I'm pretty sure she passed out in the snow. So, like, that's a thing. So maybe she's just going to be a tulip who's coming up in the snow at the end of this episode, and she hasn't died because I thought she was dead, but she's just kind of passed out with the difficulties in the breathing that she's already experienced has been established. So I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens. Next 2 episodes come out tonight, so we'll see what goes on. Anyways, thanks for watching. Oh, I need to talk about Attack on Titan. I think I'll do a separate one for that because that one's just going to be really, really quick. But I'll talk about it now. Attack on Titan, the manga, 120 is coming out. It's supposed to come out Friday. Spoilers are already being put out there. I have no idea what's going to happen. We saw, Aaron. Okay, spoilers. spoilers. If you haven't watched, you don't know what's going on, you haven't read, get away, because we're getting down to the nitty gritty. Because the last thing we saw was that Aaron got his head blown off, and from the spoilers that I've seen, and I don't know if these are real or not, it looks like he is not making it, which I'm still like, I still feel like Endgame is going to be Armin and Mikasa. And I do feel, I don't think that Aaron's coming back, honestly. I mean, unless something really great happens, because I think that with the whole paths, that they don't necessarily need Aaron to be alive as a character for him to still be active as a character, because it's like he never goes away anyway, because he's still in the whole like paths for the shifters and the Titans, and so he can still be active through that. And I think that's what we're going to see, a part of that in this next one, where we're going to see how, even though he may not be alive anymore, that he's still like active, he's still in the story, because it's like all the shifters and all the Titans have been sharing memories, have been sharing across timelines, and they're all connected, and this tree that connects them all is something that we will find will be part of what keeps him able to stay a part of the story, even though he's not like physically alive anymore. But we'll see what they actually do, because this story is so complicated, and I really just want to know, like, I just really want to know what's going to happen at the end. I want to know who the baby is at the end. I want to know what's going to happen in this episode. I want to know where Levi is. Like, I just want to know. I feel stressed about it. Like, because I was stressed when we saw him get his head blown off, and now I'm stressed trying to figure out, well, where is he and what does he have going on? Because I wish that everyone would make it, but I also, like, I haven't followed too closely along with what's going on with the actual author, but I do feel like he's kind of like, screw you guys, I'm going home, because he's gotten frustrated with some of the way that the people have acted, like the fans and things, and how he's writing the story. So now he's just doing whatever he feels like doing, as opposed to like being worried about ships and all this other stuff that's going on there and what like people would like to happen. And I feel like, honestly, that's much more realistic. And that, yeah, we always kind of want things to work out a certain way, but that doesn't guarantee that they will, and it doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't mean that the story is less of a well-written, adventurous, engaging tale just because it doesn't work out the way that you would like for it to. Like, I would just like for some people to make it in the end. I would like for not everyone to die in the end. And I can take that and like hold on to that and go from there. But I want to know what happened so badly. And I'm hoping that we actually get to like see Ymir, and we actually get to see like what happened with her and how the Titans started. I feel like I'm asking for too much with that, but I really want to know, like, how did this actually happen? Because this whole thing about like making like a deal with the devil, and how that was able to, or the devil gave her a gift, or she tricked the devil, whatever people's different, ways of viewing this has happened. Like, I'm like, okay, but like, what actually happened? Like, did she actually run across something that like gave her these abilities? Is it a genetic mutation? Is it the devil? Is it a god in general that's just been labeled as the devil because of what he was able to do and what he was willing to give out? Like, how, like, what is that story? I want to know that story. Like, honestly, I'm real interested in what goes on with Aaron and all of his people, but I'm honestly a bit more interested in like, how did this all start, and how did we end up where we ended up, in the long run. So those are my thoughts on Attack on Titan. I will probably be talking about them some more when the official I don't know what you call them. When it comes out, when 120 comes out, I'll be talking. I want to talk about it some more. I want to see what's happening. I want to know what happens. I want to know the end. And I just hope that it's a satisfying end. Like, I don't have any particular, like, oh, Levi needs to live, or oh, so-and-so needs, and I know you people don't like, I think her name is Gabrielle. I know y'all don't like her, But I'm like, I don't feel any way about, okay, these people need to get their comeuppance. Like, I just want to know, I want to know more about the origins of this tale and this mythology and how that came to be, more so than I'm interested in, like, are they going to be able to break the shifter curse, the 13 years? And then I'm also interested because, like, Mikasa was so adamant about how, like, the 13 years isn't true, that, like, you won't die after 13 years. And I was curious if, like, if there's something actually to that, if there was just a random line thrown in there, which it probably was. But I was like, this is interesting because, like, and y'all can let me know if you know, like, has there been someone who's gotten to their 13 years and, like, they died and it passed on? Or is this something else that's just in the mythology that, and the lore of, like, how shifters work and what goes on with them? Because it seems like none of them make it all the way to those 13 years. It seems like they all end up being killed or eaten, and maybe because of the lore about that, like, they go about it systematically, so they don't ever really even get to that point. I don't know, but I'm curious as to if that's actually a thing. I'm also curious to see if they are able to change the way that the shifter and the Titan powers work. Is Eren able to take on so many of these Titans and be able to, like, really have the power of the coordinate? But and that's why I go a little bit back to, like, what role will Armin play in this? Because I'm like, well, if Armin eats Eren, then, like, he'll get all of the Titans that Eren has, and he'll also take on a piece of Eren. So again, that whole, like, Eren's still living on, and so then will that allow for this whole, like, how to control and how to change the story and how to change their outcome? Will that be able to still be achieved only with Armin being the one who's actually carrying it out, as opposed to it being Eren? But I do think that Eren will stay the main protagonist. I do think that he will continue to lead out the story, and then maybe in, like, the final one, I don't know, honestly. I don't know where this story is going or what's possibly going to come from it, but, like, I just want to know what's going on with Ymir. I want to know the story. I want to know how they got to where they are now and what could possibly come from this in the end. So I want to know what's going on. I want to know what's happening. So now I'm done. Now I'm finished. And if I find out something else, I'm going to come back and I'm going to theorize about what I think and what I want to know about what's going on with this story. So anyways, that is review of Infinity Train. And one last note about Infinity Train. It does give me Wizard of Oz feels, but it gives me more of, like, Blade Runner, trips into another world. I really think she's just passed out or something. Like, I don't think she's actually on a train anywhere. I think she's just passed out and, like, out there in the cold, not doing too well. And that now she's having this kind of, like, she's hallucinating. And that's kind of, like, all the stuff that she's going through to process in her subconscious what happened. But it'd be much cooler if, like, she actually is in, like, this other world with this Infinity Train, and that there's different ways to access this, and or it'd be even cooler if she was, like, in a video game. Oh my god, if this was, like, a version of her video game, or a video game that, like, she wanted to create or something like that, and, like, she's just playing her way through that without, like, I don't know, like, maybe as the character who doesn't know that she's the character in the video game. I think that would be really neat to play out some way. That doesn't make a lot of sense right now, but, like, it'd be cool if this was somehow a video game, and that solving all of these puzzles to get to the end, to get the conductor who's gonna, help you to get home, is a part of, like, the adventure game, like, what is that called? Dungeons and Dragons, the cartoon, where they were sucked up and then they had to kind of play through and get the Dungeon Master and all this other stuff. So, like, I think that would be an interesting way to take this. I don't know if it's going to go that way. There's only 10 episodes, and who knows if she even makes it home by the end of the 10 episodes, or if she's still going to be wherever she is on this infinity train by the 10th episode. I did see, though, that in the Cartoon Network, I think it was an official sneak peek, they had her mom calling for her upstairs, and like the video game was playing and the window was open and you saw that she was gone, but the mom was like, Tulip, let's talk about this. Like, Tulip, can you come down? And I was like, okay, well, this is interesting because, like, is the mom gonna realize that she's gone? Which, again, I'm like, okay, well, then does that play into the whole, like, they're just gonna find her and she's passed out outside or something like that? So I'd be really interested, because usually you don't see what goes on in this world, like when someone's been transported to another world. So, like in Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy was transported to Oz, after she was knocked out during the tornado, we don't see kind of like what's going on in Kansas in the real world, even though there's the one scene where the Wicked Witch of the West, Wicked Witch of the West is showing her an image of what is that lady's name? Her grandma, Auntie M. She's showing her an image of Auntie M, but like it's not a real image of Auntie M, because Auntie M and them are just hanging out, by the bed where she's passed out. So I'm curious to see like how that's going to play in, especially if like in reality she really did run away, or not run away, but try to run to the camp, and now like her family's trying to figure out what happened to her. So I don't know. We shall see. So anyways, have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.